Yo guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another race reaction for the 2022 season. And today we're talking about the Monaco Grand Prix, which had everything. And for a Monaco Grand Prix, you can't really complain. Every time we go to Monaco, qualifying is usually better than the race. But I think we got quite lucky this season. And yeah, I thought it was a good race. Like I said, it had everything. Lots of controversial and really weird decisions throughout the race as well. But we'll get into all of that. I think first we should talk about the FIA. So let's do that. So the FIA, what was that decision making all about? Because honestly, the race was going to go ahead as planned, and then obviously it started raining, and then they delayed the race for some random reason, and obviously the track got worse. We had the star behind the safety car, and then they red flagged it. So a really silly decision from the FIA. They should have just started the race when they should have done, and then obviously if the race got worse, they could have just red flagged it anyway, like we've seen in previous races. But to me, they're just getting a little bit too safety conscious, and it's really affecting the racing and the decisions, because people aren't really putting up with it anymore, and it is really getting on my nerves as well. So hopefully the FIA sort it out for the next Grand Prix, because yes, I know Monaco is dangerous. It's dangerous in any time, no matter what the conditions are. But yeah, it needs to be sorted out, because the delay was for no apparent reason, and it just completely ruined the start of the race and took all the excitement out of the race. And I think it would have been more exciting if we started the race normally, a standing start, and see what would have happened, because the rain was absolutely mental. But nevertheless, that's the rant over for the FIA. Sort it out. Stop being so conscious of safety. I understand, because of things in the past with Bianchi and Grosjean's crash in Bahrain and stuff, but still, it needs to be sorted out, because these guys are the top drivers. I'm pretty sure they can handle wet weather. So let's get into the result then. So we're going to start with Red Bull Racing, who got very lucky today from a certain Ferrari strategy. Perez, of all people, to take the victory. Perez got it. Obviously got a little bit unfortunate in qualifying when he spun around at Portier, but really, like I said, got lucky as well, but really held his own at the end of the Grand Prix, when Sainz, Verstappen and Leclerc were all behind him for like the last 20 minutes of the race, because obviously it started counting down as a timer, because we've sort of run out of laps in the end. So they just put it down as a timer, like you see in like other motorsport races. But yeah, no, Perez, I can't believe it, winning the Monaco Grand Prix, and I was really happy for him as well, because although he got lucky, I think he definitely deserved the win, because obviously what happened in Spain last weekend. But yeah, brilliant job from Perez. And Verstappen obviously got caught out with the red flag in qualifying yesterday, and today just didn't really have the pace again. It's Monaco. He managed to jump Leclerc in the pits. So that's how we managed to stay ahead of Leclerc. But apart from that, it was putting on the pressure at Sainz in the end. But again, it's impossible to overtake in Monaco. So unfortunately, you didn't see much overtaking at the front towards the end of the race. And now it's time to talk about Ferrari. If the race could have gone worse for Ferrari, I don't really know how much worse it could have got. But Carlos Sainz second and Charles Leclerc in fourth place. I mean, and still finished behind Verstappen. That's got to be a massive kick to the nuts. Like, honestly, I don't know what was going on with Ferrari. Originally, they pitted for Inters, and then they came in again, double stacked for hards. And for some reason, I think Ferrari knew they sort of messed up, because they said Leclerc to pit, and then they said stay out, but by that time it was too late. So yeah, massive mess up from Ferrari. And you could see Sainz at the end of the race as well, sort of once again not very happy. Thought he probably could get the win, and I was expecting a sort of like a dive move, but we didn't see it towards the end of the race, unfortunately. But nevertheless, yeah, massive disappointment from Ferrari as well. And when Leclerc got out of the car after the second red flag, after Mick Schumacher's crash, when he was walking up the pit lane to go back to Ferrari, it just reminded me of Michael Schumacher when he had contact with David Coulthard. But good throwbacks there. But yeah, a miserable day for Ferrari. Even though it's still points, it could have been an easy one too. So next up, we'll talk about Mercedes then, and George Russell, P5 again, keeps his record of top 5 finishes every single race this season. Yeah, what a brilliant drive. I think he jumped Lando in the pits. I can't remember because there was so much going on with the strategy and everything. Obviously, so many pit stops and God knows else what. But yeah, no, Russell managed to get P5 and yeah, didn't really have the pace to keep up with the guys ahead. He was on the mediums towards the end of the race after the last red flag, but unfortunately, yeah, didn't really have the pace, and he was actually being caught by Lando quite significantly, but managed to hold on to P5. So thank God, well done, George Russell. And Lewis Hamilton, P8 as well, had the little bit of contact with Ocon into turn 1. Ocon actually got a 5-second penalty, which I thought that was quite harsh, but we'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, and then after that, Ocon pitted and then just got stuck behind Alonso for the entire Grand Prix, really, and was getting a little bit frustrated. And yeah, I'm just not really used to seeing this sort of Lewis. I mean, he's I know he was a little bit complaining on the radio, but now it just seems like he's complaining about everything. And obviously, you know, coming from a Lewis fan, it's not nice to see. So unfortunately, it's not good for me at the moment to see him like that. But nevertheless, obviously, you know, he's going to be frustrated. You know, when you're stuck behind a car in Monaco, you can't really expect much else because it's not very fun, I can imagine. But nevertheless, P8 for Hamilton and P5 for Russell. Good points for Mercedes. Next up is McLaren then, and Lando Norris once again just proving, even with his illness at the moment, that he's still not fully over. Managed to claw into P6. Like I said, didn't quite manage to hold on to P5. I think Russell, like I said, jumped him in the pit stop. But nevertheless, it's more points for Lando Norris, and the man needs a top team. Honestly, he's just proving so much that he deserves a top drive, so hopefully that will come sooner rather than later. And then Daniel Ricciardo, P13, had a horrible qualifying once again down in P14, and a lot of talk over the weekend about, you know, whether he's going to go somewhere else or is he going to retire, or sorry, if he should go. But yeah, not a good weekend for Daniel, and yeah, once again sort of having a bit of a doddle in the race. Next up's Alpine then, and like I mentioned, Fernando Alonso finished in P7 and Esteban Ocon in P12 after his 5-second time penalty. Yeah, Alonso didn't really have much pace, and then was told to sort of hold up the rest of the field because there wasn't really going to be any opportunities ahead. Obviously, the guys ahead were too fast, and Esteban Ocon, like I said, he had a collision with Hamilton into turn 1. Which gave him a 5-second penalty, which I thought was quite harsh as well, because, you know, although Lewis sort of went down the inside and Ocon sort of turned in, I don't think Lewis was really enough to sort of go for the move. So, you know, I mean, the FIA making their decisions, that's fair enough, but I don't think it was a 5-second time penalty, to be honest. I thought Lewis was a bit optimistic, especially as the track was still fairly damp. But nevertheless, that put him out of the points, and he was on for P9 if it wasn't for that penalty. So unfortunately, Alpine missing out on some points there, but nevertheless, still got 7th with Fernando. Next up, Alfa Romeo then, and Valtteri Bottas finishing in 9th place, and didn't really have much pace again. Like I said, I thought we would see a little bit more from Bottas this weekend. Lots of people talking about the picture of his bum as well, which I thought was hilarious, and actually raised a lot of money for charity as well, so fair play to him. But yeah, his race wasn't really that good. Alfa Romeo didn't really have any sort of pace throughout the whole weekend, really. He was out in Q2 as well, which a lot of people thought he would be able to probably get up into P5 or top 5 in qualifying all the race, but unfortunately didn't happen. And Zhou Guanyu didn't really do much either. Unfortunately, qualified last and then actually finished the race in P16 after a few retirements, and Sonoda completely pulled it at the end of the race as well. So not a good day for Alfa Romeo. Someone who did have a better weekend was Aston Martin, and Sebastian Vettel creeping into the points and managed to get P10 after Ocon's penalty. And yeah, also managed to get into Q3 as well. You could see how happy he was on the radio as well. But yeah, once again, just sort of stuck behind the train. And once again, you know, it's Monaco. It's impossible to pass. And Stroll finished in 14th, actually crashed behind the safety car as it left the grid. So yeah, not great from Lance Stroll there, but unfortunately didn't manage to claw anything back from the race, and like I said, 14th place, so 1 point for Aston Martin. Another team who I think will be disappointed this weekend is Pierre Gasly and AlphaTauri. I mean, it couldn't have gone more wrong for them, to be honest. Pierre Gasly, he was out in Q1 at P17 after he looked so promising in practice. We don't know what happened. The pace just completely fell away. Didn't quite make the line as well in qualifying, unfortunately. So that's what sort of ruined his Saturday. But nevertheless, in the race, yeah, he put Inters on very early and was coming through the field quite significantly, and made up some good ground, but unfortunately wasn't able to get back into the points after all the red flags and everything had sorted itself out. And Yuki Tsunoda, like I mentioned earlier, just had a shocking weekend, really. He caused the red flag in qualifying, and then in the race just had a disaster. Really, it kept locking up into turn 1, I think, after with a few laps to go, and then that completely ruined his race. I think he pitted and then he did it again. So yeah, not a good day for AlphaTauri at all. Next up is Williams then, and Latifi finished the race in P15, a lap down, and he also crashed under the safety car into the Lowe's hairpin. Latifi doing Latifi things, but managed to carry on and, like I said, finish in P15. And Alexander Albon didn't have a good weekend either. He was out in Q1. And then he sort of made a mistake, I think, fairly early on, if I'm not mistaken, but then retired later on anyway, with a mechanical failure, I think. So yeah, unfortunately, not a good weekend for Williams once again. And finally then, we'll end on Haas, who had also a terrible weekend. Mick Schumacher had a really bizarre crash. Well, not bizarre crash, he spun into the barrier and then sort of hit the sort of foamy barrier, sort of the opposite side, and the rear of the car again just completely fell away, like we saw in Bahrain, obviously with Romain Grosjean's crash, but also like we saw in Saudi Arabia when he went into the barrier backwards after spinning off the curb. But yeah, the Haas doesn't really seem to be very strong compared to the other cars. I don't know if it's just me, but every time we've seen a crash from the Haas, it's been quite significant, has always split in two. And I know the cars are designed to do that, but it seems to be Haas that particularly are having these problems. So I don't really know what that's about, but luckily he was okay. The impact wasn't massive as well, that was the weird thing, but maybe it was the angle he went in, I'm not sure. But I'm sure Haas will have to do some massive investigating. A massive fun loss for them as well, obviously having to repair the car, especially after Saudi's crash. That was a huge crash that they had to do a massive repair on. And again, this is also going to cause them a little bit of problems. So, no, not good from Haas. And Magnussen, I'm not really sure what even happened. I didn't even know he retired. When Mick Schumacher crashed, it cut to Magnussen, and I was like, how's Magnussen out of the car that quickly? But he retired prior to that. So that was all a bit confusing. But again, don't really know what happened with Magnussen. I think it was just a retirement for a problem with the car. So yeah, not a good day for Haas. So there we go, guys. That is it for the Monaco race reaction. And like I said, as Monaco Grand Prix go, you can't really complain. I mean, we had a lot of overtakes for a Monaco Grand Prix. We had red flags, rain, safety cars, virtual safety cars, crashes. We had everything, and you know, I think you have to take Monaco with a pinch of salt. I just think if we had the race start normally, I think it would have been probably a bit more exciting. Like I said, I think the delay took a lot of the excitement out of the Grand Prix. So unfortunately, hopefully we stop having these silly decisions, and yeah, we'll go from there. But nevertheless, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, and I will see you all again in the next one, guys. Take care.